So we're here talking today with the creators and owners and purveyors of Vox Lumiere. That would be Kevin Saunders Hayes and Victoria Levy. Can you guys talk to us a little bit to get started about, let's start with that fabulous story, Kevin, about how Vox Lumiere got started when you were shopping for socks or underwear or some such thing.
It was underwear. I wish it was as high toned as socks, you know. But I had on the. It's a true story. I was living in New York the first time, and I was here, you know, making the world safer one jingle at a time, and I was doing writing my crazy musical things, events that we were doing at night, and I was going from a session to a rehearsal. And I had on that, I asked people, I don't know if everybody's mother did this, but my mother would always say, now make sure you have nice underwear on. Because if you get hit by a bus, you end up in the hospital, you don't want to embarrass the family. So I'm walking down 57th Street, I'm having this whole conversation about, so she's not concerned that I got hit by a bus. She's concerned about, you know, keeping the family's reputation intact, which is already a lost cause. So, but I said, okay, I'm going to you know, root for I'm going to, you know, take one for the family. I said, there's one of these odd lot places. They got cheap underwear. They've got so I'm going to go in here. I have $5 in my pocket, and I start walking in. I'm looking around for the cheap jockeys, and I walked by an inn, and it had a ripped up cardboard sign with scratchy magic marker. It said silent movies, $1. I had one of these epiphanies, and I said, you know, the light shone down on the bin, and the choir sang, and I said, okay, I need to do something with these. I don't know what it is. So I plucked out 5 titles, and I did the mature grown-up thing, and I went home with silent movie tapes instead of underwear. And that was the genesis of the whole project. I went home and I popped one in the then VCR, and I'll have to put a little subtitle in to explain what VCRs are to a lot of your audience. But I was completely stunned, mesmerized with the beauty of these, you know, this technology from the early 20th century. I thought there's something here. So that was really the impetus of the whole whole journey.
What were those first 5 titles, Kevin? What was the first one you popped in?
The first one was Metropolis. I remember distinctly, which is if you're going to know a silent film, you're probably going to know that one or have seen scenes from it. But it's a magnificent. It's the first and still one of the best science fiction movies ever made. And I was just stunned, and this idea for, you know, new pop rock music, live performance to tell, you know, to bridge the gap between this, you know, the people that can't relate to this older technology to the modern world. You know, that's when it started. I really, you know, jumped on my piano on this very first scene that I saw. I started writing something, and that song's still in the piece today.
Amazing. Now, I'd like you to talk a little bit about what it is, because anyone who's never seen a Vox Lumiere production or any of your footage online, I'm sure couldn't have any idea of what it is. So can you talk a little bit, because obviously in the old days when silent movies were played, there was music played, so there was nothing bizarre about you as a composer deciding, I want to write some music for a silent movie. How did you take the next step to decide how you were going to physicalize it the way you do, and talk a little bit about how you do it at Vox Lumiere, because you don't simply play a movie and have a score underneath it.
Right, because as you said, that was, you know, the first, you know, the early technology. They figured out the visual part of it, which was pretty awesome, but they hadn't figured, it took them almost 30 years or more to figure out how can we sync the sound to it. So the tradition was, you know, they would write scores, sometimes they wouldn't write scores, they would send the films out, and usually musicians in whatever town it went in would improvise something. And there was a whole industry that built up around that. So I think, you know, it's hard to tell where, you know, the crazy ideas actually kind of germinate or they come from. But you know, my background is a film composer and a songwriter, and also, you know, I write a lot of musicals and a lot of stage work. So it started initially as a film idea, where I thought, oh, you know, I'll do this filmically. But it was one of those times where it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you should be sleeping, but I'm still working on this. And, and you see, I saw this image, the theater part of my brain started, kicking in, was like, okay, what about, here's a whole scene I'm working on with a hunchback just crawling down the side of the cathedral. I said, wouldn't it be cool if somebody was, the person singing their role was crawling down the side of the screen? So that was really the first image I saw of how we could combine, really take the two-dimensional world and the three-dimensional world and make it seamless. That's our goal. We want to put everybody, we want to wrap you in the movie. And I don't want it to be, oh, there's the movie, oh, here are the people. We want it to be a seamless experience. So sometimes people are on the screen, they may walk off the screen, out of the scene, and they'll walk right into our world. So there's a seamless, everybody, live and two-dimensional, are telling the story.
That's absolutely amazing. Victoria, how did you get involved in all of this? I know that you not only are Kevin's, you not only work on Vox Lumiere, as a production-wise with Kevin, but you also perform in the shows. And how early did you get involved in how all this was happening, and how much did you have to do with how it evolved into what it is?
I've been involved since the very, very beginning. I was working with Kevin musically when he started sucking his friends into come and sing on this crazy thing I'm working on. We're like, okay. And so he was as part of this project, and I was like, this is crazy, awesome stuff. What is this for? It's telling me my internet connection's on stream.
That's fine.
And
okay.
So, he started telling me and other singers that he brought to sing on the project that what he was doing, and we're like, you're crazy, but it's a really exciting and amazing and very fun and very different. So what I get to do is I get to create a character and a sound and a voice that has never been created before for a project that's never been done before. So it's not like I'm playing the role of fill in the blank of whatever pre-existing musical or show has already come and been performed in the world. I'm getting to be a part of something that's brand new, a completely new art form. It's pretty exciting to have that opportunity, and I just jumped on board, and I've been involved really since the very beginning.
And she doesn't give herself enough credit because she was very instrumental. She talked about these, my friends that I sucked into my, that's what artists do. It's like we help each other out. So you call your friends up. So one of these friends, our very first gig came from one of these friends mentioning it to somebody else who mentioned it to somebody else. And I got a call out of the blue one day, and they said, hey, Kevin, I want you to come do your show for us at our festival. And I was like, I didn't know what he was talking about. He said, yeah, your silent movie show would be great. I was like, oh, my show. We'd never done my show. We'd only ever done it in my head. So, we're talking, and he said, well, look, I'll be honest with you. It would be great here, and I can't pay you, but we can get you here, and we'll put you up, and we'll feed you. So I'm thinking, well, that's a win. I said, great. Where's your festival? He goes, it's in Avignon, France. So I said I can work with that, but this is a long way of saying that. So the first 4 or 5 years of Vox Lumiere, we had a show, but the intent, it really was, wow, we're getting all these crazy opportunities, and people keep calling us, and we have these wonderful adventures and working vacations. And it was really Victoria about 4 or 5 years in who, kind of gently hit me upside of the head and said, you should really pay attention to this. People really are affected by what you're doing. They really respond to it. It really has an amazing effect. So she really is quite instrumental in, why we're talking to you from New York, and why we said, okay, I guess let's pay attention to this and see what the hell happens.
Right. Now, tell us. You mentioned Metropolis, and you mentioned Hunchback. What other titles? What titles so far have you put into Vox Lumiere shows?
We have The Phantom of the Opera, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Metropolis, Peter Pan, which we found this amazing. No one ever knows about this silent version of Peter Pan, which is magical. And then the other production we have is really the first commissioned piece we did. It's really a greatest hits. It's great for, so we do highlights from a number of different films.
And it's called Silence You Can Hear.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and we did that actually for Hollywood and Highland, at the complex at Hollywood and Highland in lovely Los Angeles.
Right.
And it, to this day, is still one of the most awesome shows that we've ever done, and had just the most brilliant experience. It was gorgeous, gorgeous, 8-week run there outside in the Babylon court that they created in Hollywood and Highland, which it was just a perfect setting, and it was just such an amazing opportunity for us to be in our hometown at the time, and to really have this piece that we did especially for that location. And yeah, it was brilliant.
Amazing. So I know you toured. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh no, we're just there are 2 or 3 in development right now that we're focusing on production, but I've got 2 or 3 in development. It's like, okay, I'm ready to get back and finish those up now, because we keep figuring out more and more. With every show, we figure out more of this crazy new art form we come up with.
Mm-hmm. Well, and now I know you toured for many years, where you were based in LA, but you toured all over the country, and it must have been quite the deal to tour that show, considering all of the structural stuff you had to take with you in order to have the movie screen and your acting troupe and all the music and everything that you had to do. What was that like, those years of touring?
It's awesome, and it was awesome, and it was scary, and it was incredibly fulfilling, and it was challenging to, so it's all those things combined.
And incredibly educational too, and very valuable for where we are now, because we've really learned what our show is by bringing it out into the world and performing in front of people in all these different locations and different countries. And so we feel that we are coming with a great arsenal of assets and knowledge to, be able to mount a new production in New York. And I think we have a lot of support from that. And it was incredibly amazing, to just be able to have that experience. And we got to tour all 5 of those shows at different points in different parts of the country, and again, and abroad, and on cruise ships, and it was just, and will continue to be. It's not that we certainly haven't stopped, but we're just really focused on New York right now. And, we even have stuff that's coming up very soon to be outside of New York as well. So it's been just an amazing journey for us.
Well, and I think I think about it as, I agree with her. It was the best education ever, and it's one of those things I wish for all creators of theater, because the schools are doing this now, where when you're in a production, or you're going to major in theater or whatever, but you have to work on all parts of the production. But I think that's invaluable, because as the creator, we having to figure out all of those different pieces, the logistics of moving people, or getting the set there, or how much. Okay, we have to get there at 8 o'clock in the morning. We have a show at 8 o'clock that night. So you have to make it work. How do you make it work? So it's a wonderful thought process and experience, because as you continue to create, I think it's great as a creator, because it doesn't limit you. Actually, I think it gives me more freedom, because I understand that. I know it's like, oh, we can do that. I know we can do it this way, or it's been creative because we couldn't do it that original way, but you know what? We found this other way, and it turned out to be more awesome than the original concept. So it's part of creativity of going. We saw a show not so long ago, Peter and the Starcatcher. They did half the show with this piece of rope.
Yes.
And I would swear to you this day that I saw a ship, form on stage,
right, yeah,
and all these magical things, and it was a piece of rope. So it's that kind of magic that I love at theater. That it's like, oh no, you don't need that. You just need to tell people I've got an apple. So what's better than using your imagination? And people want to. So that's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So you learned a lot in those years of touring, obviously, and then something happened that made you decide that you wanted to try something else. And I know you spent some time, as you say, here in LA at Hollywood and Highland, but then you decided to relocate to New York and start this whole big project of getting your show into New York. Can you talk about that, about the relocation, about your efforts, about your fundraising, and everything, all the steps along the way that you're doing to get yourself to actually have that premiere in New York?
We can talk about that ad nauseum. It's been, that's why I mentioned earlier, it's really been an amazing part of the journey. Because as we started it, it really was it was a lark. It was, wow, someone wants us to come and get to perform music I've written for a bunch, so for people, and you know, that in itself was a wonderful experience and a wonderful gift. So as we developed it and kept working on it, we kept seeing, oh, there's more potential. There's more. We haven't fulfilled the potential. We haven't fulfilled the potential. There's more we can do. So after the 10 years of touring, that really was the conversation. You know, it's like, wow, okay, we've built 5 of these shows. We've toured lots of places around the world these past 10 years. You know, but we're not done yet. So what's next? So it really was a conversation of, okay, what have we learned in 10 years? That to take the next step, we see that most shows, and we're not a traditional theatrical show, you know, we're more like an event, but there's still a validity to go. Shows go to New York. And why do you go to New York? So they go to expand or to build some branding that they've done. And there's something about New York that there's a validity to it validates you because you've been to New York. So that was really the thought process of, we think, and we still believe, and we're finding it to be true, that coming to New York, mounting the show here is really the first step in this expansion process. It's that the show is a franchise. You know, we're like Cirque du Soleil or a Stomp or a Blue Man Group, where we have created this cool new way of telling stories. And we already have 5 different productions. So we see it as a great tentpole production, like a launching pad for doing what we've been doing, but doing it on a bigger scale. We really see the show being another Cirque du Soleil. We see it, a sit-down production going on for a long time in New York, and that already, it's already proven itself because it's given us access to a cruise line being in touch with us to do a production, to a London producer being interested in the show, to talking to Vegas producers, to talking to some producers about, you know, tour productions in Asia. So Los Angeles has been, you know, it's an amazingly creative place, and there's lots of amazing theater going on there. And I think, you know, but it's still very much a movie town. So it's, you know, we just made a decision because we still think as a capital of live performance, you know, that New York is sort of that launching pad to do that.
For our type of show.
For our type of show. And that's not a slight on Los Angeles in any way, shape, or form, because there's so much of the work that you're doing at, you know, what you guys are doing at NMI, and, you know, in fact, here's another thing. This is the pat on the back to LA, because not only are we here, but 2 of our very good friends, you know, Valerie Vigoda, Amy Engelhardt. You know, LA is importing, you know, is exporting a lot of amazing talent.
Amy's got Bastard Jones, which I think either just closed or is closing today or tomorrow.
Yeah, they're closing on Sunday.
Yes.
We're actually having dinner with Amy this evening.
Oh, fantastic. Say hello.
Yeah, and Valerie's show was gorgeous, and we saw that.
That's Ernest Shackleton.
They closed.
Ernest Shackleton Loves Me. Right?
And that closed back in June.
Mm-hmm.
So LA, you know, West Coast represent. You know, we are really, you know, there's a lot of amazing, you know, creative projects that are coming, you know, coming this way. But I see it as, you know, it's a pipeline to the rest of the world.
Now, are you thinking, now,
This
Vox,
is-
as you said before, I mean, I think of the Cirque du Soleil reference is a good one because in a way, Vox Lumiere is sort of like, you know, Cirque du Soleil meets silent movies, meets, you know, book musicals somehow in some crazy mashup. But you aren't,
Yeah.
you aren't the traditional kind of show that one would expect to see on Broadway. Are you aiming for Broadway or are you just aiming for New York? What is your end goal?
Aiming for New York, not Broadway. That is not our current aim.
So the show scales, but it's a different experience on Broadway. You know, there are some shows like The Great Comet now is trying to be more immersive and get close to their audiences, and they've made it, you know, the way the set, they've built things, they've made it grand, and that came out of a tradition like us. They came out of a tent. I see our show, it's a very grand show, it's a spectacle in all the best sense of the word, but there's something about, we are always striving to surround you, envelop you in the production. And there's something about there's an intimacy that I always want to keep with the show, because I want our performers and I want you to be right there feeling everything that's going on. And there's some of these, I mean, these beautiful Broadway houses, they're magnificent, but if you're sitting, you know, up in the second balcony or something, you just, try as you may, it's hard to get that connection.
Yeah.
So I think the connection for us is really, really important. I think Victoria could talk about that as a performer. I mean, it's different to have the spotlight on your face and be singing to the back row you can't see it, as opposed to you being there and going, you know, you're looking in the person's eyes you're singing to. You're really connecting.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to us.
I mean, we've played in various different sizes of venues over these years, you know, from regular performing arts centers that have thousands of seats to smaller, more intimate. Even when we did LA, we were in like a 499 seat venue, which was fantastic. That was like a great, perfect amount of people where you could really feel everything, but it didn't feel too far away. And it didn't feel like people were escaping the you know, intimacy of the performance, and just the music felt right, and you know, just kind of felt like you can really bring everyone in, as Kevin keeps mentioning. You know, we really want the audience to feel like they're in the movie with us in a way.
Right.
And we're doing a lot of interactive. I mean, it's really immersive, and it more than a lot of immersive, but it really is that, you know, somebody may like finish this, the dancers may finish this amazing, like, oh my God, how did they do that dance move? Then they'll sit down next to you and watch the show. You know, there's still that connection we're always keeping with the audience.
Yeah, it seems like the show would lend itself to non-traditional theatrical settings of different kinds as well, as opposed to just your standard theater necessarily. It could be a different kind of space altogether.
Definitely. Yeah.
Now, I know you guys are in the middle.
Which is
Right, and it could be, as we talked about earlier, it could be an outdoor.
Oh, go ahead.
But
Yeah, no, I was going to say you're in the middle of you're doing a series of steps as towards your fundraising and your organization to get yourself where you want to be in New York. And I know you're doing smaller events and fundraising events and lots of handshaking and talking. Can you talk a little bit about that whole process, where you are in it, and maybe what's next?
Sure, and that's really going back to the really branching off of what we were just talking about, that our approach, our thought has been since the day one, we approach it more like an artist or a band might approach Vox Lumiere. We really want to create, we've really made it, and I think successfully, created our tribe. You know, we want to bring people in. It's not just, I don't want to just sell you a ticket. I want you to come and be part of our world, be part of our tribe. So, as the wonderful thing about touring the show is that we've got tribe all around the world, which is great. It's really wonderful. So we're now in New York. You know, it's like a whole world unto itself. So we've been taking the approach. You know, we thought originally we were going to open earlier this year. We thought, oh, let's look at that as a model too. And this year was an extraordinary year of theater in New York, where we had 23 shows that opened in like 6 weeks. And we really decided to take a step back and go, we can't, the show's always been a word of mouth show. And even we don't have the kind of Broadway budgets, and we can't buy our way into, we can't buy a tribe. So what do we do? We're going to put boots on the ground, and we're going to go out and we're going to connect with people like we always do. So we'll do, so we came up with this idea like, great, we're going to not only go around and meet team members that we want to add to the production side, but we're going to start doing these pop-up concerts and start getting out there and just like giving people a little taste and going, oh, we're just going to do this for a couple of nights, come check it out. And it's been a really wonderful experience because we knew we were introducing ourselves. We didn't have a lot of expectations, but the first couple of pop-ups we did, we end up selling them out. It's incredible that so it's kind of, again, and they're going out and talking about it. And now we've got a couple of more places where we're looking to do another pop-up, and there might be a couple of venues we might do a couple of weeks.
That's
and then the producer side of your brain goes, this is the slow burn. It takes more patience to do this, but it's part of our tribe building, and it's part of, we think in the long term, what we're about. We want people to come be part of our tribe, to go out and be our advocates and tell people, oh, I saw this cool thing. It's like, oh yeah, I saw them a couple of weeks ago. You should go check them out because I had a great time. So we think that's the way we built our show from the get-go, and I think it's a way. There's a whole lot of, there's a phrase like cutting through the noise, but it's like it's not cutting through the noise because we don't want to be out there like, hey, come to watch something or buy tickets. We want people to go, I had a great time. You really should go check this out. And people know that I had a great time with that. So me telling you how great I am, that that others can say, yes, I had a wonderful time. You really, you should go check it out.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, what's coming up next? When is your next pop-up concert, and where is it going to be? Are you in the works planning that?
On our screen, we can't tell if
we're having some freezing. There's a
Hello.
There you go.
In case you missed everything I said, that was brilliant.
Everything you said was brilliant. I wanted to ask where your next pop-up concert is going to be and when. Do you have that planned already?
That's very interesting. We just came from a venue. We can't tell you yet what it is right now because we haven't sorted it out yet. But we just had a really cool meeting today at a venue that could be our next pop-up.
It was actually another, again, one of these wonderful things where somebody called us and said, hey, I just heard about about Vox Lumiere. Why don't you come check this out? So it would be, again, like Victoria said, we can't announce it, but it would be the end of September, and a very cool kind of atrium venue here in New York. So we will definitely keep you posted.
Please do, yeah.
So that's actually just one of a couple because we are, as Kevin was saying, we're meeting with a lot of different people, and so there's different areas and different types of neighborhoods and places that we feel that we would be a good fit to just kind of be a part of just different experiences, and people can organically find us in different places. So we're looking at that right now.
It's interesting because it's LA. It's so spread out. So we actually played with the idea of doing like touring LA because you could do that because it's people in Santa Monica don't want to go downtown necessarily.
Yeah.
So New York's sort of the same way. There are lots of neighborhoods, and geographically aren't that far away from each other, but emotionally, and people, they go to Williamsburg and it's like, yeah, I'm not going back into the city. So it's an interesting thing we're exploring in that capacity too. It's like because we're taking all that touring experience and trying to make good use of it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very smart of you because you're creating a brand and you're patient enough to take your time to do it and do it right. And that takes patience and bravery and persistence. But I think I believe it's going to pay off for you guys in the long run by creating a brand and a tribe, as you say. So I wanted to ask you a question that I've been asking everybody that we've been interviewing along the way. I've been asking a fantasy question. If you were to wake up tomorrow morning and suddenly find someone had left $100 million on your doorstep, and it had to be used for new musicals, Vox Lumiere or anything else, or various different things, as long as it's for new work, how would you want to spend that money?
I actually have a really good answer. I mean, I've actually thought about something that crazy. I mean, a couple of things. Of course, I absolutely want to produce my own work. So Vox Lumiere would get, would actually get, a portion of that money. And there's another project involving graphic novels that I would want to develop. But it's an interesting. I've been thinking about this model for a while. I would love to set up something like what you all do with NMI. I've always thought it would be an interesting model to go. Okay, I want to fund 10 shows every year, and the deal with this show is whatever we'll do a set budget, and so the deal would be just like development. Basically a development deal that not-for-profits do. It's like a portion of your proceeds now and forever, verily, will go and fund this organization so you can help fund 10 projects a year, moving forward. So I thought that would be, I just thought that model would be a good way of paying it forward and helping help us make more art, which we need more. We need to help creators, need to help each other. And after artists, there's always comes a certain place where artists have done the hard work. They've got something. It's worthy and it needs to be seen, or they need to see it to work on it. Because when you're writing musicals or writing live, collaborative work that has to be performed live. There's only so much you can get down on the page. Eventually, you have to get it up on its feet, because then you're gonna learn more, and then you can make it better. So I would love to help create that kind of model where it could just keep rolling forward, and more people can, everybody can keep helping everybody else as we move it all forward.
I think also, the helping facilitate people, and also with the knowledge and experience that we have. From what we did, it would be, I know how much support we could have used, expanded from just the two of us doing everything and becoming, the hat wearers of every position one needs to be on tour. So it would be great to make that an easier experience for new people coming up and experiencing that, and being able to think beyond just that first little theater that they get to be in, or big theater, whatever it is, but just that they can envision themselves moving beyond that, so that they think it is possible. And I think we have a lot of experience, because we sort of did it backwards in a way from a lot of people, is that we toured from the beginning, and a lot of people don't do that. And some people really understand the theater world in their venue, but they have no idea how to tour things. So I think that would be a really helpful portion as well, as being able to really help support people who want to tour, and just being able to give a lot more to that process.
Or at least be a sounding board and say, oh yeah, here are all the things you shouldn't do.
Well, there's always that. Here are all the things we did that didn't work out so well.
Oh, yeah. Here, read this list first, then we can talk.
Yeah, so many things that you just never know are going to pop up. That I think we have, notebooks full of them. But again, they've all served us. Every single moment has served us to be where we are today. And you hear that, everybody says that. But it's just because it's true.
Yes.
You can't know what you need to know until you've experienced whatever did or did not work.
Absolutely.
Then you bring that forward and you go, this is what I want to keep as part of our, company's motto and how we function, and these are all the things we don't want to keep, or this is the help that we need from these kinds of people. And so it's been a very big growing experience to really elevate where we've been to where we want to be, and that's what this part of our journey is about right now.
So true. It's all about learning as you go along and learning from your mistakes. And at the very least, you learn not to make the same mistakes again. You make new mistakes as you go
Right, you
along.
make new
One
ones.
hopes, one hopes.
But it's
Great.
The thing is though, what more could I ever want to do every day than what I'm doing? It's just, I am so passionate about what I'm doing, and it just fills me immensely, and there's just nothing else I can imagine doing as deeply as I do this.
Back to your question about the $100 million, and there are lots of other people that feel the same way, and it's really there's a part of we want to be successful because for personal reason, but the more successful, I'm hoping we can take that and help and help others be more successful, because there's room for a whole bunch of us. It's not there's not a limited amount of success possible. We want that for everybody.
Yeah, there's a whole theater community and artist community. Like, you want to keep nurturing that and make sure that everyone continues to want to be doing what we do. That there's still the excitement and joy that we all are wanting to experience in doing what we do. There's a lot of reward, but you have to be able to get through a lot of the muck too. So, the easier you can make it for anybody on the journey, if you have the ability to do that, I think that's really helpful.
Well, that segues into my wrap-up question, which is a two-part question, which would be, what do you think? You guys are already on the cutting edge of sort of working outside the box of traditional theater. How much more of that do you see coming? What do you think is the future for musical theater? And what kind of advice would you want to give to writers and creators who are putting together the musical theater projects of tomorrow?
The first thing I will say for me is to allow yourself to not feel you need to have the typical structure in this kind of song for this kind of moment. Like, allow yourself the freedom to explore something different. I think that is important as far as really being able to break a mold that exists and to learn something new and be sort of more the rainmaker new, and sort of think of twisting things around a bit. I think that for me, I always like to go and see things that are just like, oh my goodness, that is so not what I was expecting. Like, I love that, as opposed to here's that song that's gonna come, that's gonna sound like this, and it's gonna feel like this. I don't want to know what I'm about to hear before it's even happened. So that's just one thing that I feel is exciting when I see new works. How about you?
Me? Yeah. That's a very good answer. And originally I was thinking about things like technology might be an answer that comes up. But technology is technology. It's a tool. It's not whether they're more video projections or whether they're more this or that or the other thing is not the point. I think it always boils down to great storytelling. And I think, as Victoria said, to me personally, along the same lines of, there is musical theater as a genre. I think that it's ready. It's expanding. I think don't be afraid to expand. I think, of course, we've got Hamilton. So you've got a hip hop musical. I think, which thank God we finally have, because hip hop's been around for 30 years. So it's high time that the art form was presented beautifully on stage. So I think, as Victoria was saying, I think there's a sometimes musical theater writers can go, and they are, of course, influenced by other musical theater pieces they like. But I think don't be afraid, again, with the storytelling and then musically branching out more, exploring more other sounds. That's coming as part of my film scoring background. That's a very big, it's a very high priority in film scoring, because every film doesn't want to sound like the next film, unless you're doing a Marvel superhero film. But even then, if you're paying attention to the music in any kind of film, you'll hear that there's some elements, there's something, most composers are trying to find that something different to bring to the storytelling that sets it apart. So I think that's the view I see, but what do I hope for our art form is to keep pushing those boundaries, to look for why don't we put this piece, in this way, or why don't we include, whatever, it's like opera was outrageous, 500 years ago, 400 or 500 years ago, because it's like, wait a minute, we're going to have music and acting on the same stage. That's that's outrageous. So it's finding those different pieces and going, well, why not? What if? Let's try it out.
What we've done is sort of taken all these different art forms and, as we say, sort of like twisted them on their ear in a way. And I love that. So I encourage that kind of development of more, people finding what that thing is for them. And, being like not editing yourself before you've even gotten your passion out, like let that happen and then see what you created.
Oh, that's fantastic, you guys. Thank you so much for that. I look forward to when your next pop-up concert might happen, and to finding out how you continue in New York to get Vox Lumiere to your tribe. And I think maybe one of the most important things for people to take away is knowing that that art and creating art and figuring out what's next is far more important than having clean underwear. So
that is, I guess that's the takeaway. You're right. That's good.
I want to tell you. It's very...
You guys keep up the awesome work.
Yes.
We will. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming to chat with us today. We really appreciate it. Take care.